to the cloud.
And we're off. Echoey. My speakers are off.
I know, but you're not muted. Maybe this will help. Okay. Okay. So, I'm Eric. Hi. Hello. We're gonna be talking about process. So Jordan and Sarah shared their processes. Randall will be sharing his process, and I am a songwriter. So my process is probably a bit different from how some of you generate your ideas. What were the days? We did generate, then we did capture, okay, which is either notate or record an idea under your DAW or something. And then today is polish, and then tomorrow is produce. And polish and produce to me seem somewhat related, but polishing I think is appropriate for where I am with my song that I'm going to show you. So I essentially started a song completely from scratch. Once I knew that we were going to do this process salon, I was like, okay, I'm going to start a song from scratch and just document all the stages along the way. I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I really like this song, but it's the one that I was documenting to present to you. So it's what we're going to look at. But so basically what I have is I have some journaling and I have some voice memos kind of documenting what happened with this piece along the way. So I will start from the very beginning. Very good place to start. And it is, let me tell you all about it. So I was on the airplane coming back from London, and I had never visited London before, and I don't know the last time I'd been on a plane ride that was this long. And it was halfway through this 10 or something hour flight that I woke up in the middle of it. I was pretty delirious. I was like, was I asleep? Was I not asleep? But I could kind of hear you're on an airplane and you're just like covered with this like noise. For some reason, I could hear chords moving around. I don't know if I was hallucinating, but I pulled out my phone and I came up with the voice memo on my phone is called Airplane Mouth Chords. Good luck. Let's see if this. Oh, wait. You can. And sorry to Zoom people. People who are only online, you might not hear the best quality, but they're coming out of speakers here. Oh my gosh. Ah! Yeah, it's a banger. I know. Okay, so that's the beginning, right? Complete nonsense. Luckily, I had like a memory of what I was sort of thinking I was hearing. And I woke up one morning at 5 and I was like, oh my God, right. I had this weird idea and it was like sort of running in the back of my mind. So this is me like really struggling to figure out these chords. They ended up being like kind of basic jazz-ish sounding chords, but I was like, I heard these really specific, like they were like half diminished chords, just kind of parallel half diminished chords kind of shifting around. So that was my first attempt. Then this was another time I kind of was. So that's what I heard. Blum, 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 blum.
Hey Eric, is your original sound on? I can't hear it all online.
What? Someone?
I cannot hear it all online.
You can't
Is
hear
your
it?
original sound on?
Oh, let me do that. Here, how about tell me if you can hear this.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Oh yes, so this is in my apartment. There are birds in the background. This is at 5 in the morning, mind you. This is what I deal with. Okay, so this is me sort of like hammering out what I thought I heard when I was on the airplane. So as far as process goes, this was one time, it wasn't really struck by lightning. It was sort of me just being open to hearing something maybe. And then I just sort of started sketching what, like chiseling out what was maybe there. So then what I did one day is I went on my DAW, I went on Logic and oh, come on, I'll just do this. And I started laying down some of the stuff. And I did not really like how it started out. But I will share with you kind of how it started out. Get out of here. Okay, so here's the end result, or where it is right now. But how it started out was just me I figured out a beat that I liked for the chords that I heard. And this is what I ended up with. And there's the beat. So. Okay, so that's what it kind of turned into. So from the airplane nonsense voice memo to me figuring out, oh, I like how this beat sounds with these chords. Speaking of polish, one thing that I did was, do you see how these things are like really sliced up like this? Originally it sounded more like, welcome, Rad Randall. Whoop. Oh my gosh. Initially, they sounded more like, let me do this. So initially, they were more like these long chords, like meow, 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 meow. But when I was polishing, someone have their volume on or their computer, or they're not muted. But then I decided to go back and change that. Instead of sounding like this, I felt that space was really important to establish the beat. So that was polish right there. That was me polishing. Then what did I do? I started laying in these drums. I think I had these here. So I just kind of started doing this. Okay, that's kind of how it started. But I didn't really like this, these drums that I had. I just thought they were just sort of lame. So, oops. I know at a certain point I started exploring these different snare ideas. So what I did is I found this one that I liked. No, you're not supposed to know that. Okay. So I went through a whole bunch of snares and I found this one that I liked. And then if you've been in my DAW class, what's an effect I could use to this, or to affect how this sounds? Anyone from my DAW class, what could I have done to this to make it sound a little different? Yeah, Iggy, sure. Speed? I didn't change the speed, but I could have. Yeah, Anthony. I could change the pitch. So what I did is I found this snare and I probably did something like this. I just had these chords going like this. Highlight my snare and I hit the transpose button and I'm gonna go, maybe, what would it sound like higher? Hear that sounds higher? Oh, that's too high. What if we went lower? Whoa! It sounds like a kick drum. What if we went even lower? That's just ridiculous. So I found my Goldilocks spot. So this is the original. I ended up here. Whoops, not 4. I ended up tuning it down 3 half steps. That felt right to me, tonally. I can't explain why, but it did. So that's an example of polish. I was like, I know that I have this sound I want. I know I want something to go bop, bop. I don't like this one. I kind of like this. What if this was a little lower? Yeah, ding, ding, ding. That's an example of polish that I found. What did I do then? Let's return to voice memo land. By the way, process. What I'm doing while I'm writing a song, I am, you know, do you know how many days there were between my initial airplane voice memo and when I started doing this? It was like a week. So my process is like very long. I'll let it ride out if it needs to. Sometimes here at camp, you got to go. You have a deadline. You have to work on it. But for me, I'm like lazing around. I'll pick up the guitar at 5 in the morning and go back to bed. I'll wake up later and figure the chords out again and be like, this sucks. I don't like this. And then later on, I'll come back and I'll kind of be like, oh, actually, I do kind of like this. And that's a huge part of the process for me is like having the thing, going away and like making breakfast. Like I know that doesn't sound like a part of the process, but leaving the thing and coming back to it with fresh ears is like, to me, the most important part of the whole thing. Leaving, coming back. And it feels, sometimes I'm hard on myself because I'm like, is this ADHD? Like, is this like this? I'll hop around. I'll be like, I'm playing guitar now. Oh, I'm bored with that. I'm going to go play piano. I think that's just a part of what you do. Like, yes, there are sometimes you should be diligent and like put your head down and be like, no, I need to focus on this. But it depends on where you're at in the process. You can float around at the beginning. You can go for a walk. Beethoven went for walks all the time. That was like a huge part of his process. So, so here's me trying to come up with a melody for this. I don't know what this is. I actually don't know what this will sound like. So that's kind of the idea. It's sort of like this 3-note ba ba bum ba ba bum ba dun do. And there's a point when I'm singing this, and I usually don't have lyrics or anything yet. I kind of mumble. I kind of try to figure out like what sounds good. If I find myself being like, boom ba doo 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 da, I'm like, oh, me going doo da at the end sounds nice. Something feels right about that. So I definitely want it to end with an I or an ah. I definitely don't want it to be doing stuff. Me and Mountain do enough. Like I'm like, okay, it's not gonna be that. It's definitely gonna be I. Some feels right about it. It's intuitive. And when I was singing it originally, I was like, here, I'll sing over this. It was really like, button do, button do, didn't die. And now, and did it do, and did it do. Button do, did it do, and did it do. Button down, and did it do, and did it do. And I'm like, okay, that's cool the first 3 times, I think, but something needs to change up. Because I love how those 3 notes sound over these like weird chords, and it just so happens that these 3 notes always kind of sound good, even though the tonalities of the chords are changing. It mostly stays in the same scale, but it kind of doesn't. And then so then I added. Here, I'll show you some of what the lead vocal does. So. Parked between 2 busy streets, you and I. Light and sound filling up the summer sky. And have we been here before a dozen times? Familiar shapes, little changes, so slight. So part of the polish, I was like, I just want that last thing to change just a little bit, just to keep people interested. Because they're definitely going to hear bow, bow, bow a lot more than just this. Speaking of writing lyrics for me are like pulling teeth. It is brutal. I think I'm good at them. It's no knock on like my ability, but like getting me to do it is kind of painful. I don't know if any of you have parts in your process where you're like, you love, this whole part, like you love the beginning of the thing, and you love finishing the piece, but the middle of it is just painful. That's, for me, it's the lyrics. So that is something that I'll definitely make a lot of breakfast. I'll write lyrics for 5 minutes, and then I'll eat for an hour, and then I'll come back and be like, oh, these are terrible. I'm gonna go make lunch. Come back and be like, oh, no, make dinner. But going to sleep and waking up the next day, that's the ultimate leaving something and coming back. And you come back and you're like, oh, that wasn't the worst. That's okay. What did I do? So I wrote this down. Let me read this verbatim. Lyric writing. I got up thinking about lyrics, so I woke up with some sort of inspiration. You don't need to always be inspired. I was lazy enough that I was waiting for it, and I let it happen, and it was fine. So I got up thinking about lyrics. I sat down and wrote them. I thought about how they made me feel. I imagined some sort of story or recent event in my life. Oh, so my lyrics a lot of times are really abstract. I'm like, you and me, summer sky, fill in. I don't remember what the words were, but I was like, I like how they sound. Some part of my soul, vomited them at me. How can I make them relevant to some sort of personal life thing? So I imagine some sort of story, recent event in my life. I go through a few different alternate ways of saying things. Like I have an idea of my wife and I went and saw fireworks, and I was like trying to think about how do I describe that in a way that's not cheesy, but it can be kind of cheesy because it's like a sweet story. What happened on that night? What's a kind of poetical or fun way to say the things? Like what feelings were felt along this night or whatever. So I went through a few different alternate ways of saying things, wrote them down, and then I specifically wrote, then I made coffee. So I focused for 10 or 15 minutes and then did the sort of mindless activity while mulling over the words. And I came back for another 10 minutes and sat there. And by the way, for whatever reason, I always write lyrics with my left hand because I heard if you brush your teeth with your left hand or right, you activate some other part of your mind. And I don't believe it actually, but now I do it. So if anyone ever reads my lyrics after I'm gone, they're gonna be like, this guy must have been a serial killer because his handwriting is very scary. So anyway, I did a sort of mindless routine activity while mulling over the words, came back for another 10 minutes, peeled an orange, ate the orange, came back. That is what I wrote. And then I did this for an hour or so. And then I was like, okay, I'm fine. I can go play Mario Kart now. But it's things like that. Like I'll maybe work, really diligently work for 2 to 3 hours, but I consider the stepping away, it's just as important to me. Okay, so we're kind of running here on time. So let me show you kind of how this ended up. And this all started out as a delirious man on an airplane. Okay. Between two busy streets, you and I, light and sound. Is it too loud? Oh. The summer sky. And have we been here before a dozen times? Familiar shapes, little changes, so slight. Had known at the end of the night, you say a joke once a while, it jogs my mind. I look at you in a new kind of light. Now look at us holding hands as we pull in the drive. Nothing was ever the same again. Back and forth and nothing was ever the same again. Back and forth and back and forth and time grows at the end of the day. Sweaty hands, hot to hold, they slip away. Puppy eyes as I beg you to stay. And I can't help but laugh at all the things you say. Nothing was ever the same again. Back and forth and nothing was ever the same again. Back and forth and So that is where it is right now.
Yeah, sell that one to Steve Lacy.
Oh, I'm a big fan. he probably had a big influence on this, actually. Okay, so a couple relevant things I want to show you process-wise. There was a point, I think it was here. Let me find it. There was a point where stop it. Okay. I think I heard this. Oops. Oh yeah, it was this. I don't know, I accidentally put the cycle on, so it just did that. So I made a loop and I saved it just in case I ever wanted to be inspired and I don't know. It just felt like something, like I could do that with something later. So that was a part of the process. I was like, whoa, what's this? Put that aside. The other thing that's relevant to found sound is I had this brown bowl that I was messing around with and I thought the sound was kind of neat. So it's just this thing, and I was trying to EQ it in a particular way that it would sound better, but I realized while I was EQing it that I was able to pull different pitches out of it. So this is, well, you can see it on screen. This little thing here, this is me EQing it, and I figured out if I could kind of move it back and forth, you could get like a bum, 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 bum kind of thing out of it. So I used that to, what did I do? I made this kind of ridiculous beat. And I think I tried to make it match up with the chords a little bit. Oh yeah, so here, like Anthony before was talking about pitch shift, I went in there, I'll turn it up a little bit so you can hear it relative to the track. Oops. And I did a bunch of stuff with it, like I delayed it and I whatever, but like I was really playing around. Like I probably spent 30 minutes alone messing around with this brown bowls noise. But within like the context of the thing, here, but if I muted it, I miss it, so. But that was kind of cool. And then I'll show you, well, actually, no, I think that's it. That's sort of my process. So inspiration, find a little inspiration along the way, but the polishing factor is like really, I don't know. There's a lot of intuitive stuff. Like I'll listen to something, let it kind of wash over me, and just go with like, what's my gut instinct? Am I bored at this point? Do these things go too long? Maybe instead of being wah, 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 they should be wah, 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 wah. My gut instinct told me that because I came back to it and it was kind of critical. And I feel like that being critical during the polishing phase is sort of what it's all about. It's about the details. Okay, are there questions from anyone? Yeah, Jordan. Yeah, I'll just cold call Steve.
I mean, that's how it works.
I guess, yeah. Yeah. Any other questions not related to Steve Lacey, who you should all check out? No? Okay, cool. Thanks, y'all.